All right, I see that it's 5 p.m., so I'm just gonna get started. One last sound and image check. Can you hear me well, and can you see my presentation? Okay, perfect, thank you. So hello, everyone. We have here a mix of faculty and staff and students, and we have a lot of guests that are joining us today for this event. It's really a pleasure to welcome all of you to AUD's Fall Open House. My name is Mariana Ibanez. I am a professor and the chair of the Architecture and Urban Design Department here at UCLA AUD. And during the next few hours, you will get a chance to hear from all the people in this Zoom room, as I mentioned before, faculty who will be talking about the programs, students that will be talking about some of the student groups and extracurricular activities, and staff as we share information about UCLA, about the School of the Arts and Architecture, about specifically the Department of Architecture and Urban Design. We're going to talk about the work we do with students, the ideas that drive our research, our community, and of course, in the Fall Open House, we always focused quite a bit on the admissions process, which I'm sure you all have many questions about. We're excited to get to know all of you and learn about your trajectories and your work through the admissions process in the next few months. Today is our kickoff event for the admission season. And this is what the schedule looks like for the next, I guess, hour and so. After my welcome and introduction, we are hosting a session with our student affairs officers, Jim and Berlina, who will join us to answer questions about not only the admissions process itself, but also financial aid and scholarship opportunities. After that, you will have a chance to meet the students and student groups. And to finalize today's program, we will break into 3 separate Zoom sessions. And don't worry about locating the links. We're going to post them in the chat when the time comes. And if for some reason you lose that, you can go back to your Eventbrite where you signed up and confirmed this event, and you will find the links there as well. Today, we're hosting sessions for the Master of Architecture, the MArch program, the Master of Science in Architecture and Urban Design, which is our post-professional MSAUD program, which you might also know as the IDEAS program. And the third session is for the MA and PhD programs. Apart from today's presentations, we have a series of admissions events and support sessions in the coming months. These will run all the way until our admissions deadline. I'll just go over them in case you have any questions as the presentations progress. On Monday, November 4th, we're hosting a day of open studios. So for those of you that are in Los Angeles or can make it to the city, please come join us at AUD during the kickoff day of our midterm reviews. We will have a second-year course studio review to several of our advanced topic studios. On that day, you can come and meet with students, with faculty, with staff, get a first-hand experience of a day in the life at AUD, see the work that the students are developing, and experience really the kinds of conversations that students have with faculty and with guest critics as they give feedback to our students on the work they will be presenting on that day. If you are planning on coming, there is a registration link in our website that you can use to RSVP for that day. And I really hope you can make it. There will be also introductions by our MArch program director who's doing a general welcome. And obviously all of us are going to be around during and doing reviews. On Tuesday, November the 19th, we will host an info session for our graduate programs. If you have more questions about the admissions process, submission requirements, financial aid, and scholarship opportunities, as you actually begin to prepare your applications, you will have another opportunity on this day to meet with our student affairs officers. And on Wednesday, November the 20th, we're hosting a portfolio preparation workshop where one of our faculty members will show portfolios that have led to successful applications and admissions and portfolio preparation tips. And I think this is useful for both students that have an architecture background and are more familiar with the process of preparing a portfolio, to those that are sort of first timers putting this kind of information together. It's always good to go over the process and hear again some advice. And last but not least, on the timeline side, our admissions deadline, which is we're all working towards, which is January the 6th. And okay, I am done with the logistical notes. So now let's get to some of the interesting stuff. I always start by saying that any presentation about AUD has to begin with Los Angeles, because our city plays a key role in the culture of the university, in the culture of the school, and definitely in the culture of our department. LA is not only our school's backyard, but it also happens to be one of the most important design laboratories in the world. It's a massive center for speculation and experimental design across many disciplines. And as a global hub for innovation, at AUD, we really benefit from and also contribute to the creative energy all around us, which includes the arts, it includes industry, and it really is driven by an entrepreneurial force that can only be found in California. Today, LA has a population of over 18 million people distributed in a 60-mile radius, where more than 150 languages are spoken. Undoubtedly, Los Angeles and its scope of influence are key players in the global stage. And our city, like many others, is also dealing with very pressing issues related to growth, to mobility, density, social justice, climate change, environmental sustainability, and the list really goes on. And each one of those topics has a dimension that engages with architectural knowledge, with design knowledge in the most broadest of senses, but also in the most specific of senses. So these challenges really drive our work, the work we do individually as faculty in our research, in our practices, but very much so in the work that we do as well with students, both inside and outside of our classes. And within that context, we have UCLA, the great public university. Our university is more than 100 years old. And once again, this year has been ranked as the #1 public university in the country, with our program consistently placed among the top architecture and urban design programs in the US. In the context of the university, we have a community of over 60,000 people, and this includes Nobel Prize winners, MacArthur Prize winners, 2 last year. I'm not sure I have the count for this year. We have world-renowned artists, scientists, faculty and alumni in leadership positions in government, and a significant group of alumni from our department that are now leaders in architecture education. They're central figures in contemporary discourse and many award-winning designers. This is not a coincidence, and education in our department will train you as much in the practice of designing buildings and cities, as it will also train you to become critical thinkers of design and architecture. And this is why it's very important that UCLA is a research university and that public service is one of the 3 core elements of the UC mission. So obviously this mission applies to all the schools and departments and subgroups of people in the university. And then within each discipline and each school, we all participate within this mission through our own areas of expertise. UCLA is a Tier 1 research institution with a commitment to serve the public. Now, getting closer to our department, we're one of 4 in the School of Arts and Architecture. The other departments are arts, design, media arts, and world arts and cultures, and dance. Our school is also home to 3 internationally renowned public units: the Hammer Museum, the Fowler Museum, and the Center for Arts of Performance. And when you join UCLA, this collective of architects, designers, artists, curators, researchers, policymakers, and overall groundbreaking intellectuals become your community for life. And in different ways, both students and faculty engage with this larger community in a variety of ways. AUD, our department, is home to 7 programs that engage in a range of activities, from a liberal arts education with an emphasis on architectural studies to all the way to a PhD program. And the list of programs include 2 summer programs for high school and college students that are considering an education in architecture, the undergraduate program, which is a 2-year program that leads to a Bachelor of Arts in Architectural Studies, the Master of Architecture program, or MArch, as most of you would know it, which is our largest program, a Master of Arts in Architecture, and the Master of Science in Architecture and Urban Design, which is a post-professional degree, also known as the MSAUD or IDEAS program, and of course, the PhD program. I would say for those of you attending the session that many of you already know which program you would like to apply for. For others, you will have time to ask questions about which program might be right for you, depending on your background and where you are in your own education track. This is our home. This is Perloff Hall, which sits in the middle of the historic Northern Campus. Here we gather to study, to produce, to debate, to question. We all consider ourselves lifelong learners in the building. We train professional architects and urban designers, educators, scholars, curators, architectural thinkers, artists, and creatives that also go on to work on other fields associated with design thinking and space making outside of a more conventional architecture track. We see value in questioning the architect's role in society and expanding the responsibilities and creative opportunities of future architects. Since we are online today, I wanted to give you a glimpse of our school. As I mentioned before, we're gearing up for midterms starting on the 4th. And this is what the school is beginning to look like in preparation for reviews. A lot of pinups, a lot of work in progress, models, drawings. All of these are important parts of our culture of exchange in our department, where ideas and projects are shared not only within our community, but also with the extended architectural and design communities across Los Angeles, the US, and internationally. We accomplish this through the work we do together in our research, in the work we do with students in our courses, and through the extended programming and opportunities offered by the many student groups, the public lecture and event series, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation, and the extended world of people and events, both at UCLA and in the larger context of Los Angeles. I would let you know now there's more happening than any individual can really take advantage of. Sometimes it becomes a little bit overwhelming to see how much stuff is out there, since most of us wish we could clone ourselves and be everywhere. Of course, it's impossible to summarize not only all the offerings, but the kinds of very tangible outcomes that this ethos produces, just in a couple of slides and not being here. But hopefully these images give you all a sense, or at least it's an inspiring snapshot of the exciting and the bold and the rigorous and the thought-provoking ideas and projects that we do at school. Some of these images I pulled from our end-of-year reviews last year, our Rumble events, our lottery presentations. So again, little snippets of the range of projects that are taking place at AUD. I realize I always say Rumble, which is something very established in our culture, but for new people, they might not know what that is, or I imagine you don't know. Every year at the end of the year, we host a 2-day event that we call Rumble, where the school becomes a stage and a platform for sharing and discussing projects, ideas, and the pedagogical arc that connects our undergraduate, our graduate, and our post-professional programs with a range of perspectives and knowledge that each bring to the curriculum. During those days, the entire school presents the work at the same time. So it's really the one moment in the year where you see everything, and everything across cohorts, across years, across programs, different faculty, guests, and so on and so forth. Which brings me to our faculty. This group of people that you see on the screen is regarded as one of the most formidable design faculties in the United States. It includes important thinkers and designers and educators across 4 generations. This image is us today. We have architects and designers and critics and writers, scholars, makers, policy writers, and collectively committed educators. And to this amazing group, which is our permanent faculty, every quarter we add invited lecturers, visiting professors, and guest speakers that sometimes join us in teaching, in research and in conversation to expand and transform our work through their own work and through the engagements they have with faculty and students. We have a long history and well-documented history of design excellence inside and outside of studio and classes. We work with students on projects that expand our own research. A lot of students ask us about opportunities, particularly during open house, of working with faculty outside of all the learning. I want to later in the presentation, spend a little bit of time talking about the work of this amazing group of people and the role of practice and research within our department. So there's a lot of work that I would love to show all of you today. Once we get to the spring open house, our faculty do what we call faculty spotlights, where they do mini lectures expanding on their work. Today is just going to be me giving you almost like a grand tour with a single slide for some faculty projects, so you can get a sense of the scale of work, the scope of work, and the design sensibility that drive the people that you would be directly studying with. I'm going to start with the work of Professor Neil Denari. These are two of his projects, one in the Highland in New York City and one of his buildings here in Los Angeles. This is my own work in my firm Mivani Scheme for a recently completed project in Toronto. This is the work of Professor Kutana Yata. He's also our vice chair and the director of the MR program. He's going to be leading the session on the MR curriculum, so you'll meet him in a few minutes. This is one of his housing projects in Mexico and a competition he recently won for the Agricultural Resource Management Institute in South Korea. These are here two projects, one in China and the other one in Bogota by Professor Georgina Ulhich and her office Patterns. Here we see the work of adjunct professors Narine Misraeyan and Jeffrey Nava for new concepts of workspace. Kevin Daly and his office KDA with a net zero design for the Houston Endowment headquarters and a multifamily housing project in Santa Monica. This is Mohammed Sharif and Todd Lynch, partners on both faculty at AUD, and Ben Franger with a recently completed housing project in LA. This is the work of Miroslava Brooks and her firm Forma with ideas about leaky plants, which have transferred into some of the studios that she's teaching. An exhibition project by Professor Heather Roberge. Some of the editorial work of our critical studies faculty, Professors Michael Osman, Ayala Levin, and Cristobal Amunategi. Cristobal will be leading the PhD session today, so you'll meet him later too. This is the editorial and curatorial work of Natasha Sandmeyer. Natasha is going to be leading the MSAUD session, so you'll also get a chance to meet her. This is some of the material and fabrication research through 3D printing in the work of Julia Korner from JK Design. Here you see some of the projects that helped Black Panther earn an Oscar for costume design this past year. And in this case, the work of 3D printing has been well established in the context of our research studios. This year, for the third year, Julia is teaching the Fit for the Future research studio that is very much a continuation of the techniques and work that you see on the screen. This is Guvench Osel with one of his robotics projects in exhibition and his installation for last year's Coachella Festival. We have an ongoing research project looking at artificial intelligence, robotic, virtual and augmented reality. This is more the area of expertise in the MSAUD context. Here we see the work of Professor Greg Lin, who is working on the relationship between robots, architecture, and the public realm. Greg teaches continuously both in the MR program and the MSAUD programs. This is the work of Professor Hitoshi Abe, with his own design atelier. I put this also here because we have a number of faculty that are leading research laboratories. Professor Hitoshi Abe specifically runs XLab at UCLA. In this case, what you see on the screen is information around an exhibition and symposium titled Designing with Disaster, New Visions for Regenerative Urbanism, which gathers 17 universities around the world and took place between Tokyo and LA Many students contributed to these projects, and many faculty members were part of the programming of the workshops and also delivering keynote lectures. And maybe here to zoom out from the X Lab specifically, I'm going to talk in a moment about the work of Dana Cuff, but students at AUD can join these labs and the research work. These tend to be kind of multi-year themes and projects. So you'll get a chance also to operate across different cohorts and different themes that extend again beyond the kinds of things that you can do in a class. Another very important lab at AUD is City Lab. Professor Dana Cuff is the director. The lab operates also from our department, and it's a multidisciplinary center that focuses on leveraging design for spatial justice. Their charge is to design cities that grow more equitably, sustainably, and beautifully, with affordable housing at the center of its efforts. Professor Cuff also directs the Urban Humanities Initiative, which is a hub for the collaborative study of urbanism that bridges design and the humanities. So in this case, this is one of the crossovers of our department with faculty across other departments as well. In the slide, you see many of the publications, events, and projects done by the lab and Professor Cuff. All students can apply to the many positions that open every year to do work in any of these labs. They also produce projects, and here we see some of the collaborations that City Lab has engaged with, in this case with Kevin Daly and Roger Sherman. I'm almost done. I know we need to hand off. That's why I'm speaking so quickly. A lot of ground that I'm trying to cover. A lot of the work you just saw is done in studios, in practices, in the labs. It's also done in classrooms. And as a student at UCLA, you get to join the faculty and researchers in developing this kind of work. But outside of courses, we also have always an extremely active, extremely exciting public event series that include lectures, lunchtime discussions with our faculty, university guests, alumni talks. We have quite a bit of alums that actually stay on and have become faculty in the department. We host exhibitions, book launches, and career events. These are some of the highlights of the events series taking place this fall. So this is just like a few weeks of what just passed and what's coming in the next few weeks. And obviously these are open public events, but as students, they're very much part of your learning experience. So as I said earlier, it was hard to edit this segment. If you come here, you will get used to all of us speaking at this speed to try to cover a lot of ground. There's a lot more interesting work that I would love to share, but this is just meant to be an overview or a glimpse into some of the projects that are taking place in our space. All of this is extremely linked with the work we do with students in classes. We understand pedagogy as live projects, and in that sense, students are very much part of this feedback that takes place every quarter and every year as we make plans and look to the future. This is an image of one event in the Pearl of Courtyard after Rumble. As I mentioned before, this is always a moment of celebration, but it's also a moment of reflection when we look back at the work that we produce collectively and look forward to imagine what should come next. As I mentioned, students are a critical part of this process. So we look forward to welcoming you to that conversation. If you're not already following us, we have many channels to share our work, the work of our students, information about events and the day-to-day activities with larger audiences. And in the coming weeks, we also use these channels to share information about admissions and admissions deadlines. So please join so we can make sure that we stay connected. And this is my last slide. And going back to our schedule, now I'm gonna pass it on to Jim and Verlina, who are going to start the session on student affairs, admissions, and funding. I hope I get a chance to meet all of you during our open studio, during the next admissions sessions, and definitely welcoming you in the courtyard very soon. Wherever you are, have a good day and afternoon. I will stay now in the background, and thank you for joining us today. So Jim, Berlina, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I will invite you to take over.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Keys. I'm one of the student affairs officers here in the Department of Architecture and Urban Design. I'm going to take a little bit of time here just to give you a sort of a brief overview of the admissions application, what needs to be submitted, and sort of the process of what you're going to be doing as you go through your application process coming up on that January 6th deadline that Mariana had mentioned. So the things you see in this slide, these are pieces of an application that are relevant to all graduate programs. So MArch, MSAUD, PhD, MA, you will all be submitting a statement of purpose. This is basically a short essay where you're describing why you're interested in UCLA, your sort of interests in terms of your academic, where you want to go with your academics, why you want to come to UCLA. That's going to be the focus there. The personal statement will also be required. This is more about your journey academically, about you personally, maybe things you could bring to the department in terms of your background, diversity, things of this nature. These are all topics that would be relevant in the personal statement. And I just encourage you, I'm going through these very quickly, but all of these are very detailed on the application itself as to the kinds of things you'd want to include. So just make sure to really read those thoroughly as you're creating those documents. You will be submitting academic transcripts. We don't need official transcripts. Unofficial is fine, but they do need to be uploaded so that we can see your grades. Please don't submit degree progress reports. Those are very difficult to parse. We want actual transcripts, even if they're ones that you've just like they're student copies, but they should be transcripts. GRE scores can be submitted, but are not required for any of our graduate programs. So if anyone does not wish to take the GRE, you do not have to. This is not a requirement, and we just want to make sure it's well publicized that this is not an expectation that we have. We do not need you to take the GRE to apply to any of our graduate programs at UCLA. The next thing is optional, although most students do choose to submit it, which is a CV or resume. This just sort of gives us a little snapshot view of sort of your background, whether it's solely academics or if there is some professional and award type work that you have. This will give it to us in sort of a quick snapshot. The TOEFL and IELTS, this is something that must be submitted by all applicants who are international students where they are applying from countries where English is not the daily spoken language of everyday life. So even if you studied in English, that's not enough for our division of graduate education. It has to be a country where it's the everyday language of spoken life, such as Canada, the UK, New Zealand, those kinds of countries. So next is our letters of recommendation. We require 3. We encourage students to submit primarily academic references because those are super important. But obviously, if you have been working, if you have professional references that are very relevant, then those should also be included. But we do want to see at least 1 or 2 academic references because that's what's important, because you are being looked at to be admitted into an academic program. And then the final piece of this slide is just the department supplement form, which is simply a form that you'll be filling out that you'll be able to access when you start submitting your online application. Okay. So in terms of other materials, this is sort of relevant to only MArch students. We have 4 course prerequisites that are required. So these are in the areas of mathematics, physics, basic drawing or basic design, and architectural history. And as you are showing us that you've completed these, you will be filling out a prerequisite form where it indicates either that you have completed them, or if you haven't, which is fine, when you will be completing them. These courses do not need to be completed at the time you apply to the program. They do need to be completed by the time you would be starting the program next fall if you are admitted. But if you have not completed them, not only is that fine, but it will not in any way detract from your application. So I know a number of you get nervous that if you don't have those complete by January 6th, that it will somehow be a negative. That's not the case. We just need you to have completed them by next fall if you decide to matriculate into our program. For mathematics, it can be either a course that covers algebra and trig, or algebra and geometry. Also, any pre-calculus or calculus class would satisfy that requirement as well. Physics is any basic Newtonian physics class, doesn't have to have a lab, doesn't have to be calculus-based. Basic drawing or basic design, basically, just like it sounds, any sort of art studio class, any architectural design studio class, any other sort of design or art type class where you're actually doing hands-on creative work will satisfy that requirement. And then architectural history needs to be a course or courses that covers architectural history from antiquity to the present. So it needs to cover the entire time frame. Most universities don't offer that in a single course, so often you'll need to take two to fulfill that particular prerequisite. Moving on, for the MArch and MSAUD applicants, you will need to submit a portfolio of creative work. There's more information about that on our website, so I encourage you to go there for more details. But I think one of the things that some of the more common questions are, there's no specific page limit, there's no specific number of projects that need to be submitted. We leave it up to applicants to sort of determine what is the right amount of work to submit. And so you need to curate that based on your own sort of belief as to what should or should not be included. We encourage people to remember that bigger is not always better. So you should only be including things to make your portfolio stronger, not to just make it, longer. And then finally, for the MA and PhD applicants, they will, instead of submitting portfolios, will be submitting examples of written research. So that could be a paper for a course. If you're a PhD applicant, that could be a master's thesis, some sort of academic paper that you have done during your time at university that you would then upload for us to see as part of your application. Finally, as Mariana already said, but let's say it again, January 6, 2025, that is the deadline for our all of our graduate programs. And so I look forward to helping you through this process, getting all your applications into the reviews, and I'm sure I'll be corresponding with many of you over the coming months. And now I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Verlena Johnson, who is going to go give you a little more information about funding and scholarships.
Hello, everyone. My name is Verlena Johnson, as Jim has said, and I'm going to be speaking to you about funding and scholarships. Next slide, please. So for these numbers represent numbers from the 24-25 years, academic year. So for the MArch, 1 or 2 or 3 year packages are for the recruitment fellowships. Those consist of approximately $31,000 per year. And there are some select fellowships that include NRST, which is non-resident tuition for 1 year, and that's roughly $12,000. For the MSAUD program, that fellowship ranges from between $5,000 to $25,000 for recruitment fellowships. And for the PhD program, those come in the way of teaching assistantships, 2 to 3 year packages, and the compensation is roughly $39,000 to $57,000. That includes the salary and fee remissions. And in select situations, this also includes the NRST, which is $15,000 for PhD students. Next slide, please. Another fellowship opportunity that AUD has is something called Awards Day. Who is eligible to apply? This is for MArch students, also for MA and PhD students. And this is a continuing student fellowship. So the recruitment fellowships are for students who come in, and in some instances, they turn into continuing student fellowships. But in this case, these are awards that students apply for once they've come to UCLA, and this occurs in the spring quarter. To be considered for an Awards Day fellowship, students must submit either an electronic portfolio for MArch students or a paper for MA PhD students. How many awards are available? Approximately 33. This may change ever slightly, but 33 is what has been awarded in the past. We anticipate this will be similar in the future. The award amount for these awards are between $1,000 and $15,000. Next slide, please. Another continuing student award opportunity is for MArch students only, and this is for second and third year students. The applications are due in spring quarter, and what will happen essentially is that a call will go out to the student listserv or to the eligible applicants, and they will then fill out an application. And this is a needs-based award. So as opposed to in the awards day for MARC students, faculty look and review portfolios. In this case, this is solely based on the needs that a student has. We gave out approximately 43 awards this past year, and these award amounts are between $1,500 and $10,000. Next slide, please. Another opportunity that students benefit from are teaching assistantships. Who's eligible? MARC students who are continuing students, so you must be going into your second or your third year to be considered, or MA and PhD students. When are applications due? They're due in the spring quarter. So similarly, a call will go out to all eligible student listservs, and then which will provide an application, and students will submit an application along with their resume. How many positions are available? Approximately 35. And compensation for these 25% positions are roughly $6,000 per quarter, plus fee remissions. Next slide, please. Another opportunity are work-study programs, and these are for students who receive financial aid, and this is for MARC, MA, and PhD students. Federal work-study program is one type of work-study, and these positions are available within AUD as well as throughout campus. And there are also graduate work-study program, which is internship, research, and community service-based, and a supplemental application is required for all of these. All of the things that I've spoken about right now can be found, more information on our website, on the AUD website. Next slide, please.
Last slide.
Last slide. Very good. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you guys very much. I think we're going to be handing it off now to our student groups, who we're going to be presenting you with some of the opportunities you may have to join some of these groups on campus. So I'm not sure which of you is up first, but
first we're gonna have AIAS, so Kat. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, that's me. I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly. Okay, everyone can see it, right? Perfect. Okay. So I'm Kat, or Catherine is the long and fancy version of my name, but I'm our chapter president for this year, and I'm representing the American Institute of Architecture Students, or AIAS, an organization devoted to advancing professional development, leadership, and connection for architecture students across the nation and within our beloved AUD community. My vice president, Audrey, unfortunately could not be here today. She's stuck in a 3-hour class. So I'll be speaking on both of our behalves. So AIAS operates at 3 scales: the national, the regional, and the chapter scale. Our regional is the West Quad, and our national obviously is the entire nation, but we also have a bunch of new international chapters. So it means that anybody who's part of our program is going to be benefiting from all 3 of these scales. We have the West Quad Conference, but we also have Forum, which is another major conference. And if you're a member of AIAS, you get a bunch of national opportunities like design competition entrances and meetings and like workshops. For our local chapter specifically, one of our biggest and most popular ongoing events is our firm tours, which we hold throughout the year at different architecture firms around LA. Some of our most popular ones include Gensler, Co-Architects, Rios, AC Martin, etc. And we also host construction tours through our lovely faculty member and faculty advisor, Todd Lynch. Recently, we've toured Nimoy Theater, which just reopened, and the Powell Reading Room, which also just reopened like 2 days ago, which is so exciting. And we also do a number of socials, workshops, and conferences. We've met a lot of contact with other chapters in the local area like Cal Baptist and USC. A couple of events we just introduced this quarter are our portfolio parties, which have really been the focus of this year. If you guys are in the area, we'd love for you guys to come. We have a lot of prospective people who are coming. It's a little bit of a chance to work on your portfolio, your resume, and your applications among friends and in a more relaxed environment. Sometimes it's nice to have the opportunity before you present it to like a faculty member, because like that can be a lot more pressure. We are also looking to introduce new mentorship programs and peer pinups, which have become really related to our next initiative, which is our design competitions. For the first time, AIS is taking on design competitions this year, from designing a sustainable open-air museum in an abandoned village in Turkey to preserving a culturally significant bazaar in Tbilisi. To renovating a small ferry hub on a Scottish island. These projects have been a great opportunity for anyone looking to supplement their skills and their portfolios while making some new friends. We've just assembled our 3 teams, which is really exciting. We have one for each project, and in 2 weeks, we'll have our first design competition pinup, which will be really fun. Okay, so now that I've convinced you to come to AUD and to join, please stay in touch with us as well as the AUD department. You can follow us on Instagram, and those links are kind of old, but if you're interested, you can always contact us about being a PA or just being more involved. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kat. And then we have Ida for NOMAS.
Hello, I'm going to share my screen. Hello everyone, I'm Ida, a Mark third year, and I'm NOMAS at UCLA president for this year. NOMAS is National Organization of Minority Architecture Students at UCLA. We are mainly focused on we are mainly focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion at AUD. And our events aim to create and support dialogue about diversity, equity, and current topics, as well as offer a space to have fun and get to know others in our student community. Every quarter, we hold pencils downs prior to our final reviews, where we provide food and coffee for students in the studio. It's an opportunity to breathe, recharge, and distress. One of the topics that we're working on in the NOMAS with our advisor, Kutan Ayata, is the yearly BGL student design competition. Last year, we traveled to Portland and we attended to NOMA conference and NOMAS student design competition, and we placed first at SoCal NOMA competition. This year, we attend the conference and the competition in Baltimore, and I can happily announce that this year, out of 42 schools, we made it to the 8 finalists, and we won the 2nd place at Acadia Awards. So, and if you like to join, this is our QR code for our Instagram and our email. Thank you.
Thank you, Ida. And then we'll have Pool present.
Hey, I'm Alex Ferreira. I am a 2nd year MArch student at UCLA, and I'm representing Pool. I currently am a content editor. I was a content editor last year, and it was a really helpful experience going into architecture. Just as background on Pool, it's a nonprofit graduate and student-led publication dedicated to providing an outlet for creative work that traditionally falls outside the scope of academic architectural institutions. Pool is going into its 10th year of publication this quarter, so by next year we'll be on our 11th, which is pretty significant, and we're pretty thrilled to continue as a print edition and a contributor to the architectural discourse. Sorry. So, Pool is kind of focused on cultivating an air of fun and also bringing in new architectural voices, looking at alternative ways to conceptualize sort of the architectural discourse and topics. It has contributors ranging from architects to thinkers to artists and people from a lot of different fields and walks of life. It was originally named after WET, the thesis project of Leonard Cohen, a UCLA alumnus, that sort of roller skated through the 70s and 80s with a fun and provocative energy to approach architecture and criticism. Working through these multiple interests presents consistent challenges, but also opens thrilling potential for the magazine's evolution, sort of making room in the world of architecture for some new avenues of conversation. Our most recent issue was Loop for our 9th edition, and we got some pretty interesting stuff. And then going through what we have so far, we are looking into how legibility, consumability, and expression kind of informs the architectural world through print matter, community engagement, digital media. Since issue 3, we've also included what we call poolside, which is loose material tied to the internet that sort of allows more range to architectural expression. A lot of UCLA looks into digital fabrication and expression, so it kind of is moving on to that side. As a student, it really helps you kind of engage and get a wider range of what is possible with architecture. You get to sort of experience different ranges of the career and speak with people who you normally wouldn't get to hear from, and also creates a platform for, I think, work that isn't always highlighted in the academic world. So every year we choose a theme. People submit to this theme and fit into it loosely in creative ways and unexpected ways. That's always really welcome. This is our current group. And if you'd like to follow us, we're at poolla.com and then on Instagram at pool.la. We normally submit our call for release our call for submissions around the beginning of December, and we'll be doing that this year, so keep an eye out. If you're applying to UCLA and you'd like to join Pool, keep us in mind for the future. We're always looking for new editors, graphics editors, people to sort of expand our horizons a little bit. Thank you so much for your afternoon.
Thank you, Alexandra and Kat and Ida, for sharing that. We always have to curate a little bit the presentation, but definitely these are 3 of our very active groups that welcome students every cycle. We are now going to switch to the program presentations. So we have links that be posted in the chat. We also have those links in the Eventbrite for the open house today. I'm gonna stay here for a few minutes to make sure that nobody's left behind in case you cannot do the transfer. I wanna thank everybody that presented today. Thank everybody that also joined us to learn a little bit more about our department, about our school, about the work that we're doing. We look forward to meeting you soon. And please, if I forgot to mention something very important, please jump in, anybody in the presentation. We're good? All right, excellent. All right, thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the other side for the program presentations.